Hello, this is George with NS345. Today I'm mixing the song Ready to Begin by the band Zion Road from Houston. In the last video, I left off in the guitars. In this video, I'm gonna do some final tweaks and maybe even get into some automation. So I've gotten what I consider a stable mix, not a really great mix. One of the challenges I have is the stop, go thing between videos. And I'm thinking for the next video series, I'm just gonna mix the entire thing in one go, and then I'm just gonna break it up into different segments to make it easier to manage my time. But let's go ahead and get started. One thing I wanna work on today is the drums. I wanna give the drums more depth. Right now, I feel they're a bit too muddy, and I wanna open them up a little bit. So this is where we are. Okay, so I've not mixed the loop yet, so I'm gonna get to that at some point. I'm not too worried about it. But this is why I love my stems and the workflow that I use. And I'll show you, I know some people have been asking why I use stems, and this is one of the reasons why I use them. If you see here, I hit play, nothing's playing. Okay, now from my Mackie Control Universal, I'm gonna unmute just the drums. Now I'm gonna unmute just the bass. And I think this would probably be solved if Pro Tools had a solo button on the buses. That would allow me to do almost the same thing. But I like the fact that I can use the stems to do some additional mixing, automation, and I just really enjoy this workflow. For me, it's just a workflow that allows me to manage my entire session from this section of the session. So this is really good for me. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and listen to the drums and tell you what I'm gonna do with the drums. Okay, so I don't really like the room tone. Okay, so this is what the room sounds like. So basically, I'm looking for more openness to bring the drum mix alive a little bit more or give it more air because it sounds too compressed just now. So let me start with the room tone. This is what the room mic sounds like. That's with no plugins. With plugins. To be honest, I'm not crazy about that that sound. So let's see what I can do to squash it a little bit more. I think you can hear it better in the verse. Let's go to the verse. So the API does a really nice job. So what I have going on right now on the API 2500 compressor is I have it set up as a limiter. So I have the threshold open all the way, the attack as fast as possible, meaning that as soon as the transient hits the compressor attacks immediately. And the ratio, I have it at 10:1, which is set pretty high. But let me see what happens if I go all the way. So really not doing anything because it's already giving me a about 20 dBs of compression. So if I look at the room meter without 2500 engaged, you can see where the meter is peaking. So I've actually lost some of the level here, so I'm just going to increase that here. Take the target button off. That way I'll be able to have multiple plugins open. And then I'll bring in this P&M plugin mix analoger plugin. And basically this is a vintage analog saturator. So it's going to add some saturation. So let's just hear it by itself without the compressor. Okay, notice my meter didn't change any. I actually lost some signal, so I'm going to bring some back in. So if I increase the drive a little bit more, it becomes really saturated. I really like it, but I wasn't liking how it sounded in the mix. So I set it right where the break is, where it starts to saturate. And I'll show you what it sounds like without any drive. Okay, now I'm going to bring the compressor in. And to bypass both of the plugins, I just hold Shift Control and I click on the first plugin, and it automatically bypasses both of them for me in the chain. Okay, if you pay attention to my meter here on the channel fader, on the channel meter, you can see that it does sound different, but it's not adding a lot of gain. In fact, it's hardly adding any gain. Now, the one thing about the room, the way why didn't I record this? The way I know to work on the room is to remove some of the low end so that your kick stays in the center, so it doesn't sound like on the sides, and the kick shouldn't sound wide. It should sound dead in the center. At least for me, it should. So I'm just gonna get rid of some of that low end without messing up some of the tone here. So you can hear the kick there is very loud. Still hear it, but it's not as prominent. So I'm applying a high-pass filter up to 149 hertz. Now I'm going to do a high-pass filter. just to help me get rid of some of the harshness. Okay, here's the EQ bypass. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is oh, actually I have it on top. I thought I didn't have it on top, sorry. Okay, so you can hear clearly here. Let me bypass the other plugins and just leave the EQ on, so you can hear what the EQ did. So bypass, you can hear the kick come in, and and what that'll do is it'll muddy the mix, and the low end buildup will be more noticeable. So there's kind of lifeless. But I'm gonna bring in the compressor and the saturation plugin. There's with the compressor. Okay, that's good. And let me just see how it sounds in the mix right now. That's without the room mic. So I'm just gonna blend that in better. Okay, I just want to check the balance of both of these. Okay, so if you notice, I set the panning dead center, so in reality, it's like just having one mic right now. I don't want that open like that, because I want to keep my snare in the center, my kick in the center, and I want to keep my hi-hat a little bit to the left, drummer's perspective. Let me see something else. If I add a limiter to that, if I can add a little bit more space or more depth. That sounds pretty crushed right now. Let's blend it in again. I like it there. Do you like it? Notice that none of my drum tracks are soloed, and that is because I'm using my stems to audition the group itself. So the only stem that I have unmuted, it's my drum stem, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna go to the snare. I feel like the snare sounds too fat just now. Let me unmute everything real quick, see how that room, if it did make a change.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my own, no regrets. To whom much is given, much is required.
Okay, so it did make a change.
To ignite this fire.
I feel like the drums have more depth, a little bit more of the room tone, which for me, it creates air. It just opens up the drum a little bit. Let's work on the snare. I wasn't too happy with the snare, so let me see what I can get out of this one. Now, this is the snare here. And it sounds like that because I have a gate on it. And then, so one thing about the drums, Oftentimes, the bleed can get overwhelming depending on the style of music, and that's what I thought at the beginning. But I like how the combination of the bleed from the snare and the other mics bring some of that live back to the drum kit. And because I've already, if you remember in the, I think it was in the first part or the second video, I've actually aligned all the drums so there is no phasing going on just now in my drum sound. The only phasing that I have right now is the room kit, the room mic, because I never aligned that. I just leave it the way it is. And for me, that creates a little bit of depth in the drum sound. So I think I'm going to remove the gate just so that I can get some of that bleed from the snare. And if you notice, there are some ghost notes being played that I missed at the beginning. With the gate, you can hear those ghost notes. So I'm going to try and bring those out a little bit using some compression. So goodbye to the gate. I'm going to bring this. See what this one's doing. The snare has some nice attack. I'm removing some bad frequencies here that I didn't like. And I also have the SPL transient designer on here. So that really makes it pop. One thing that I can do to bring the snare alive a little bit more is I can use some parallel compression or some parallel processing. But I've already processed the entire track here, and I've already got enough, I think, compression here in the room mic, so I probably don't need it. What I think I need right now is maybe a little bit of EQ to bring up the brightness on the snare. And actually, I do need to get those ghost notes coming out a little bit more. Let me see if I can do that. So you can hear them better now. And I just did that by increasing the input to the compressor. Now it's compressing the hell out of the snare now. But let's see how it sounds with the entire drum mix. The levels here are getting close to peaking here, so I'm just going to dump a limiter in here. And actually what I'm going to do before I do that is I'm going to group these. I'm actually going to send them to a snare bus. I don't want them going to the drum bus. So I'm just going to create a snare bus to send the reverbs there, and I'm going to probably work on the reverbs. And then I'll send this snare bus to the drum bus, and I'll solo safe it. Okay, one thing that I did do while you were away is I procured or purchased a new reverb plugin, which I got a really good deal on. Now I'm giving away all my secrets. And actually, my friend Rob Morgan tuned me into the PCM native reverb bundle. This thing is amazing. It's got 7 plugins: chamber, concert hall, hall, plate, random halls, room, vintage. And you could just throw this sucker on and it's already good enough. You don't have to do much tweaking. So I'm just going to compare these to change the reverbs right now, and then I'll leave them there so I can compare them in the snare. So for the first, I think I'm going to change this to a plate. And then I'm going to just do a hall here. Let's see what happens. And let me throw the limiter here real quick, just so that I'm not... so I don't get any peaks. So I'm gonna get some different plates here. I'm gonna change that to a room reverb. I'm gonna go back to a plate, sorry. Or actually, let's see, I could do a chamber maybe? Small chamber. Okay, sounds kind of funky, but let's see what the hall does. I guess I should have. Ooh, I like that sizzle. See what that sounds like in the mix. Oh yeah, I like that. Let me compare the reverbs that I had before. So one could say that I have a lot of room tone in it. want to say that I have a lot more depth in my drums now with the change I did to the snare and to the room mic. Now let's hear it in the mix.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my own, no regrets. To whom much is given, much is required. So I wait for you to ignite this fire. Please give me compassion and a love I won't forget. Keep my people safe, forgive my sins, here I am. So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight
Okay, if you
elevated.
notice, I don't have
Smash down Babylon.
any compression on the drum bus. I feel I have plenty, but I guess you could say that the compression in the drum bus could just maybe level out everything, the entire drum bus. And I'm just starting to fall in love more and more with the API 2500 just because of the tone it creates for the drums.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my own, no regrets. To whom much is given, much is required. So I wait for you to ignite this fire. Please give me compassion and a love.
So I'm only doing about 2
Keep my
dBs of
people safe,
compression,
keep my-
of gain reduction, and you can already hear the change. Let me play with the tone a little bit.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my own, no regrets. To whom much is given, much is required. So I wait for you to ignite this fire. Please give me compassion and a love I won't forget. Keep my
So
people
yeah, that
safe,
did
give my
bring out
sins, here I
a little
am.
bit more live in the drums, more life. I like it.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my own, no regrets. To whom much is given, much is required. So I wait for you to ignite this fire. Please give me compassion and a love I won't forget. Keep my people safe, forgive my sins, here I am. So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I get. Face these H-Town streets, hold my
Okay,
own,
so
no
I like that drum
regrets.
tone,
To whom
and
much is given.
from my reference track, if you hear this reference track, you can hear how open the drums sound. So there you can hear a lot of the room tone. And let's see what the other one sounds like. I love how that hi-hat sound. Listen to the hi-hat. How it just sounds just all over the place, and it just sounds beautiful. So I think I'm doing a good job with my drums.
So now I stand in the present. I won't look back, keep my sight elevated. Smash down Babylon every chance I...
Okay, so I want to A/B this for you. So I'm going to bypass the plugins so you can see how when I first got it, what it sounded like. So basically what I do is I highlight all of the tracks, including the buses. Then I'm going to hold Shift, Control, Option, and click on the first plugin here, and it does it for all of them. Now I'm going to click on the effects. This is what it sounds like without any plugins. With the plugins. Without the plugins. Sounds good to me. All right, I will see you later. Thank you. Have a good one.